host, Liz Lee, otherwise known as Cellomoji, and I'm here to talk about tips and tools to help you on your cello journey. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cellomoji Chats. This is episode number 17, and this will be a two-part episode, so that way these episodes aren't so epically long. In this next two episodes, I'll be interviewing my really good friend, Alex Caplis-Tuttle. They are a violin and viola teacher in the area, and we will be talking to you about this really awesome program called Music Mind Games. This interview will also be up on my YouTube channel, and I'll leave the link in the show notes so that you can watch it if you choose to rewatch it or listen to certain parts of it again. I am just putting the audio of our interview here, but on the video, you'll actually see us go through a big chunk of Music Mind Games. Now, we'll dive more into the nitty-gritty of what exactly Music Mind Games is, but I wanted to just say that it's been a real pleasure just to get to know Alex better, as well as interview them for this podcast. And I'm super excited about Music Mind Games only because it is such a fun way of teaching what sometimes can be a very challenging and also somewhat boring for the kids aspect of music, which is learning things about rhythm and reading notes. And it just puts it in a really, really fun way and is a really, really great technique of how to teach anyone of any age music, rhythms, and reading. So take a listen and stay tuned to the end. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cellomoji Chats, and today I am joined by my good friend, Alex. Woo! Otherwise known as Teacher Alex. Most of the time. When we're in teaching format. But today, I brought Alex in because I wanted to talk to them and ask them to explain a little bit more about this thing called Music Mind Games. Now, this is not new. It's been around for a while, but if you ever had students who struggled with counting, reading music, this is a really neat technique and teaching format to teach students how to be better at it. So, without much further ado, let's dive in. Alex, first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what you do here?
Yeah, so I'm Alex, or Teacher Alex, and I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and I started piano when I was 5, and I started violin when I was a little older. I was 10, and then violin was like where my love was, so I just stuck with that. And then I went to college in San Marcos at Texas State, and then I graduated and started teaching.
Awesome. And just as context, I know Teacher Alex because we teach at the same schools. We go into public schools in our area and we teach students how to play their instruments and also interact with the orchestra teachers in the area as well. All right. So first, why don't you tell us a little bit, I guess, basic details of what Music Mind Games is and how, perhaps even how you got into learning about it and getting certified to teach it.
Okay, that's a lot.
Let's start first then with what is Music Mind Games?
Okay, we'll start there. Fantastic. I was like, I can't remember all those questions.
One at a time.
Okay. Music Mind Games is a method of teaching music theory and aural skills that's, as the title would suggest, based around games and having fun while you're learning or to facilitate the learning. So Music Mind Games was actually started about 50 years ago, a little more than 50 years ago now.
Wow. Didn't know it was 50 years.
Yeah. So the creator of Music Mind Games, Michiko Yorko, actually was getting her degrees in music theory, and she's a pianist, so she's incredible already at theory, but then she got even better at it. But she was thinking, hey, how can I make this more accessible to the public and the students? And so she thought, oh, well, I'll just make a bunch of games. And
because we all know that music theory is not really that fun at times. So
it's not. It's not fun ever unless you're playing music mind games, I think. But
I could say that it definitely puts everyone in a more game format rather than thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to learn all these rules and how to read stuff and make it very stressful.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No parallel fists, Liz.
Oh my gosh. Let's not get into that.
We all flashback to the terrors of college music theory. But yeah, that's kind of what music mind games is. And the philosophy of music mind games, if you are familiar with the Suzuki philosophy, is somewhat similar. Like one of the first cornerstones of music mind games, because there's 16 cornerstones in the philosophy. Yeah, but one of the first cornerstones of music mind games is believe every child is brilliant and able to learn.
Oh, that's awesome. So they kind of run parallel, and I guess that would be perhaps a common question is like, is this its own format, and will it conflict with my own teaching styles? But it sounds like even just from the very foundation that it's pretty similar to Suzuki thought process.
Yes, and Michiko actually was, and I don't know if she still does it, but a piano teacher trainer for many years, like for other teachers. So a Suzuki, piano teacher trainer. So a lot of this like core philosophy in the cornerstones, I think, is built from the Suzuki method.
Okay, so how were you first exposed to music mind games? Like how did you even hear about it? Because even for myself before, I guess it was last year when we first started talking about it, I had never heard of music mind games before, even though this has been around for 50 years.
Yeah, so I actually found out about it because I was teaching at a Suzuki school here in Austin. And my boss was like, hey, I'm bringing in this really cool person. Can you come and do the training? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. and so I did. And then it just completely changed my life. Like things that were so challenging for me, oral dictation and rhythmic dictation, became so simple.
And I think also as teachers, we always struggle with like, how do we explain this to our students in sort of a approachable way? Of course, we could totally get technical and be like, this is how you do it. And it turns into all of these formal terms. And then we bore the kids to tears. And then they actually never really learn it. Mm-hmm. I think one of the common things we hear as teachers is, can you just play it for me? I just need to hear it once and I'll know exactly how to play it. Mm-hmm. So this definitely puts it in a different perspective of another way, fun way of how to teach students, young and old, of how to learn to read music.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that having all of these tools at your disposal as a teacher, just the more versatile you can be as a teacher, the better it is, because there are so many different types of children and learning styles. And these games are really wonderful for all types of learners, like oral, visual, kinesthetic. There's something for everybody in these games.
That is totally awesome. All right. So now we'll dive into a little bit more of like what exactly music mind games is. Like we kind of gave a general talk about what it is. It's a series of games, but I'm sure all of you guys are dying to know what exactly is in this learning process. And I alluded to my intro earlier. We start to use interesting, fun words rather than something formal like 16th notes and 8th notes. We start in the beginning, I believe, with things like Jello and
blue. Well, so when you're reading rhythms, and we can show them a little later when you're reading rhythms what that looks like. There are specific words for specific rhythms. But at the same time, so actually congruently, you're learning whole note, half note. You're learning the real names of the notes.
Yeah.
So it's not oh, you're gonna learn these
in replacement
of. You're learning them both simultaneously, but the actual rhythm reading and the note naming are separated to like. That's what I think is so interesting about music mind games is rhythm math and rhythm reading are separated.
And then also I remember the first time teacher Alex brought it to a summer camp, or actually the first time I was exposed to it in a summer camp, the kids just had such a blast because instead of, these kind of obscure words that they probably only ever see in math class or whatnot, they're saying words that come to them very easily, and they instantly grasped the idea, like when they see a certain type of note, this is the word that they're associating with it. But for sure, this is not in replacement of actually knowing what the real word is, but it's just bringing everything into a more approachable way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the main criticisms of the Suzuki method is that or especially the older Suzuki method, is that the kids don't learn how to read. The kids don't know how to count. The kids don't know, music symbols, or chords or things like that. And so this is wonderful to supplement Suzuki teaching, I think, specifically.
Yeah, no, that's great. Let's take a look at some of the materials that you brought. Teacher Alex was great and brought I guess they're calling it
a puppy packet.
A puppy packet. I'm really curious. Why is it called puppy packet?
Well, there is a puppy on a lot of the cards.
Okay.
I don't know if this is why. I would have to ask Michiko, but there's a puppy on a lot of the cards, and his name is Freddie. And
that's perfect.
Yeah, and Freddie actually is based on Michiko's old dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
that's cool.
I think that might be why, but I would have to actually ask Michiko.
Well, this works because teacher Alex also owns 2 dogs.
Yes.
So, but
my
I don't
children.
know. It's your children.
My children.
Fair enough. All right,
Okay.
I'll hold it. All right, so right now we are looking at a series of cards and materials that you can find in Music Mind Games. And keep in mind, when I was first exposed to Music Mind Games, like there were a lot of other components. This is just one small component from the puppy packet, which I'm going to just show this because this is so cute. Yay, puppy packet. So we're going to dive in. All right, so we're going to dive in here and take it away, teacher Alex.
Okay, so there are several materials in the puppy packet that make learning fun and easy. The clean materials and functional materials is a huge part of Music Mind Games. So the students have a tendency to really, well, you teach them, but they really keep them clean and they keep them organized. And so it's a really good part for them to grow.
I'm just noticing this is a little face. That's so cute.
Yeah. So right here we're looking at the staff slate. The staff slate's 2-sided. So you have the grand staff on one side. And then on the other side, come on, there we go. You have just a single staff that you can put clefs on. And I have my clefs in here. They're somewhere buried.
Yeah. I mean, this is a whole...
it's a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff in this small little... packet here, but I mean, I guess it ends up to being like hours of entertainment.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Really.
Blue Jello cards. Yes,
and this is how we read rhythm. They're 2-sided, so there's a front side and a back side. I also, because I have the Puppy Plus, because I'm
Puppy
so
Plus.
exclusive. I have Puppy Plus, so I've set 2 of the blue Jello cards.
Oh, awesome.
Those give you advanced rhythms.
Which is necessary, because unless you're really just doing Suzuki Book 1, you start to get into more complex rhythms, and you're like, well, how do I practice this? So it's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then we have my grand staff cards, which are... I broke the rubber band. I need to put a new one on.
Let's see. Grand staff cards.
The grand staff cards are divided into bass clef and treble clef.
Awesome. Does it have tenor clef, alto clef in Music Mind Games?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So yes, you do introduce tenor clef and alto clef. I have the little clefs for them.
Okay.
You introduce it on the staff slate,
Right.
but in the grand staff cards, you don't have tenor and alto clef.
Right. Okay.
And it's important to note that on things like the grand staff cards, you're not using them like flashcards because that's a test.
Okay.
And it's not a game.
Okay.
So in Music Mind Games, it's really important to distinguish between games and tests.
Got it.
So,
Games and tests.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't like tests. We like games.
I mean, who likes tests? Then not me, that's for sure.
Well, exactly. And the poor kids, then there's pressure to get the right answer. And if they make a mistake, they feel really bad. And
yeah,
it's just not any good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to play with these.
Ooh, these are the
cards.
Rhythm playing cards. Awesome.
Fantastic. So we're going to play with those in a second. We're going to play a game called War. Another part of Puppy Plus is the Notes and Rest cards. You can play a game called Danish Zoo with those. It's super fun.
All right.
All right. And then we have music symbol cards, set 1 and 2.
Nice.
We have alphabet cards because learning the musical alphabet is so important. Sorry, I'm trying to go through these faster.
No, you're fine.
We have do, re, mi cards because learning solfege, sight singing, and aural skills is really, really important. I never experienced solfege until I was in college.
Wow.
So some of my students are fluent in solfege and they're 5. So
right.
it's a little...
Well, I think also too that
awesome.
when you go, at least what I found, different music schools will do solfege differently. So, like, I think in most places it's a movable do. Well, I mean, this is getting all into technical things. In most places, it can be probably a movable do. But when I first learned solfege, it was a fixed do. So that meant that the note C was always do. And that made for things to be very, very confusing and everything. And but regardless of that, exposure to what it is actually is just super helpful because some teachers actually say solfege syllables versus saying C, D, E, F, G sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so Music Mind Games does use both fixed and movable do.
Okay.
You can find, if you use fixed do, like you grew up using, you can find, instead of alphabet cards, because did you use the alphabet?
Yeah, it was, my music education as a kid was very different, so, so it was a little all over the place, yeah.
Some people don't use the alphabet at all, like in Europe. They use fixed do, right?
Right.
So you can find or do re mi cards instead of being rainbow colors because the do re mi cards are in rainbow order.
Whoa, look at these cards. They're so nice and colorful.
So there's a do sandwich. Oh yeah, the colors and how nice they are is like the number one reason the kids want to play with them.
That's awesome.
So these are in rainbow colors.
I also like the fact how like you can feel the cards and the material. It's not cheap paper, so these aren't going to like rip and tear unless the kids are actively trying to rip and tear it, which is nice.
And they don't.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And these, sorry, I'm getting around to my point now.
No, you're fine.
And these are all one color for a set, A through G.
Okay.
And so you play different games with different cards. Like sometimes you'll play with the alphabet cards. Sometimes you'll play with the do, re, mi cards. But if you want to use fixed do, you can get do, re, mi cards that are in a one color set.
Okay, cool.
To play the appropriate game.
So we're going to dive into a game here. What is this game called?
This game is War, which is... maybe not the best name, but it is the most accurate because it's just like the card game War that you played when you were little.
Nice.
With your...
We can call it battle cards.
Battle cards.
Battle cards.
So, battle cards. War has... Can you show this to them?
Yeah.
A guide card. And the guide card has the note values going from least to most. So least being the 16th note and the 16th rest, and most being the whole note and the whole rest. We also have dotted notes in there. We have a dotted eighth, a dotted quarter, and a dotted half. We don't have a dotted 16th. It's just not as common in music, so Michiko was like, I don't think we'll put that in the cards because you never see that very much.
That's smart.
Yeah, so this is our reference
card.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Cool.
And I gave Liz half the cards, and I gave myself half the cards. Now we're going to flip them over. Now, we're looking for who has the highest value. The highest value wins both cards. So I have a half note, which is worth 8 16th notes. So I win.
Teacher Alex wins.
Yay! Okay.
I guess this is how we know it's
Yeah,
like which
so
direction is
there's
by
the puppy.
the puppy down there.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so now, this is fun. It happened so early.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have a war. So
so this means like the value of the two cards is exactly the same. So now we have
we put down one blank card face down.
Okay.
Or blank. We put down a card face down, and then we flip the next card up. Oh, I think you're gonna.
Oh,
we have a double war.
That's awesome.
So I have a 16th rest, and Dr. Lee has a 16th rest. All right, now one card down, and then flip over. Ooh.
Oh, okay.
And Dr. Lee wins all the cards because I had an 8th rest, and Dr. Lee had a dotted 8th note.
Yes.
So you won by a dot.
Wow. This is
Thrilling.
fun. So, like, it helps you learn the value of the cards, but we're actually really just playing a card game.
Yeah. And I learned, I took Unit 2 this summer in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned you can actually play blackjack with these.
What? Blackjack? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's maybe for a different...
Maybe for a different day.
time. But I'm fascinated. Blackjack with these cards? That would be fascinating.
Yeah.
Cool. Shall we keep going a little bit?
Yeah, let's go a little more.
Okay.
And the kids love this game.
Because it can go by pretty fast, too. It's not like a slow, drawn-out one or anything like that.
No. It's very quick, and if you find the kids are needing to check their cards frequently with the guide card,
yeah.
Maybe you've skipped a step and it's a little too soon for this game.
Sure.
But most of the time they're just fine. And if someone runs out of cards,
Mm-hmm.
the other person just gives them some.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. Trying to take your cards.
Well, maybe we should check our own rhythms here.
I'm like, maybe it's too early for me to play this game.
Well, it's early in the day. Okay, so what is this next card game called?
Okay, this next one's called Fine. It's a classic game. There are some different types of games in Music Mind games. The classic games are ones that you can... Where are my alphabet cards? They're right in front of me.
Yep.
Okay. The classic games are the ones where you can play this same format of game, but with multiple different materials.
Cool. All right, so how do you spell Fine?
Like fine. Fine.
Just for our audience here, Fine in music is often found when it's signifying the end of a piece of music. So this is called the Fine game?
The Fine game.
The Fine game.
And this teaches them, starting to teach them music symbols,
Got it.
but while they're learning their alphabet.
Okay.
Okay?
Cool.
So we're going to do what's called a pudding shuffle. So all we do is take your hand, put them on the cards, and then mix them up. This keeps your cards from bending.
Hey, we can all appreciate that.
Yes. And now we're going to find our A and put it closest to us.
Okay.
And then you can keep your other cards mixed up. And when I say go, we're going to write the alphabet going all the way up to G.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And when you're done, you say Fine.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, go.
Oh, no.
That's okay. That's okay.
Awesome. Okay.
Look at my cards. They're all sideways.
Yeah, mine's all like lopsided here too. But that was fun. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So then you say Fine when you're done. Did you say Fine?
I did say Fine.
Okay, fantastic. And And you'll get kids once in a while who'll be like, oh, I got the fastest. But as the teacher, because you never want any of them to feel like
inferior.
Sure. As the teacher, you always have to be just a little faster than the fastest kid.
Oh gosh.
So you have to get
a lot of pressure.
You have to get really fast at Fine.
Okay.
Like Michiko is so fast. Oh my gosh.
Even with it all shuffled up?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then sometimes you can play this game, but instead of starting on A, you do the wraparound and you start B.
Oh, there it is. There's the twist. Awesome. So that way they definitely know their musical alphabet.
Forwards and backwards.
Forwards and backwards. You won't. Sometimes when I ask, what's the musical alphabet? They're like A, B, C, N, O, P. I'm like, N doesn't exist in music. What? Nope. Sorry, guys. That doesn't exist. Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's just another fun little game.
So this is the Fine game.
And you don't have to put them in order.
Okay.
Because they're, as long as they're in one color.
Sweet.
And the alphabet cards do come with H. H is used.
Oh, really? It comes with H?
It comes with H.
Oh,
because it's used in Germany.
Oh, what does H stand for in Germany?
B.
Oh,
and
really?
B is B flat.
Oh, wow, that's not confusing
I hope
at all.
that is correct. And I am not being a liar.
All right, fair. But I'm wondering, because this is kind of when I was first exposed to it, if we could do some rhythm cards with fun words. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Because this is honestly what made me think, oh, music theory could be really fun, because especially the way you teach it, it's like very fast and like you just go. And I think that's really awesome, because we all know that sometimes students' attention span is 0. So
yes.
we need to sometimes go really, really quickly.
Well, and who can blame them, honestly?
Right.
If their attention span is 0, if it's just boring worksheets.
Exactly.
Or flashcards, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just, who can blame them?
Yeah, can't blame them for that. All right,
No.
so we're diving into, these are called the blue Jello cards. All right, here we go.
Blue, 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 blue.
Okay.
And with really young students, I'll point out, there's Freddie. We're going to start on the Freddie side.
Okay.
Because this isn't just teaching with a 3-year-old. This isn't just teaching rhythm reading. It's teaching left to right reading.
Ah, that makes total sense here. Okay, so we always start with the Freddie side. And then even though I know what some of these things are, like pretend I don't know anything. Like,
okay.
Teach it that way.
Fantastic. All right, find 2 fingers. Point at the card.
Okay.
Well,
We'll
you
pretend
go
I'll
above. You
this
go
way.
above.
Yeah, okay.
Jello, 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 jello. And sometimes you have to teach them to say jello.
Oh, yeah, instead of like
Jello.
Yeah.
Or they'll say it jello, 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 jello. And you're developing internal pulse. All right. Let's do this one.
Okay.
Find 1 finger. Blue, blue, jello, blue, blue. And now this one was really interesting. Michiko told me this this summer, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. When you say blue, you say the full value of the quarter note.
Oh, so you're not just
so
like
you're not
blue.
saying blue.
You're like blue.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
because you don't want to teach them to play staccato all the time. Right.
Exactly.
So let's try this.
Okay.
Blue, jello, blue, blue, jello.
And even though we're going at this pace, I just remember when we'd go in the summer camp too, it was like we would just start whipping through the cards, and the kids would slowly, like with each card, would just get more and more excited. And it was really neat to see the class come together and they're all like chanting the same thing, because then it's in a way like subtly teaching them about ensemble work of just everyone doing the same rhythm at the same time. And no one can go too fast and no one can go too slow. So I thought that was really cool too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell my students regularly, we have to say it together because an orchestra plays together.
Right. Exactly.
So,
perfect. All right.
It's awesome.
And then
blue, jello, blue, jello, rest.
And here's the important thing about it. Rest is not spoken in a like normal tone of voice. We have to be quiet. So rest is
Yes,
a little
it's
bit
whispered. Yes. And notice how every time there is a new rhythm or note value introduced, then there's a whole card of that note value that
brilliant.
follows.
Yeah.
So you get to practice it.
Yeah. And and what's cool too is since we all know that people learn things in different ways, whether it's like an audio, visual, or tactile, this kind of teaching is incorporating all of it because you're speaking it, you're visually seeing the card, and we have to do like finger hand symbols to represent each of the values of the notes. So I think that's really cool because it really appeals to all learners and not just one type of learner.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's also training having to do hand signs while reading these cards isn't just helping the kinesthetic learners, which it definitely is, but it's also training you to prepare to sight read.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Like you have to
we're
recognize.
all so good at sight reading.
Oh yeah, I'm better at it now after doing music mind games than I was before. But
I mean, I will say if I had this training as a kid, my sight reading days would have been a whole lot less painful.
Yeah, yeah, because you're just like, oh, look, a pineapple.
Yeah, exactly.
How nifty, and not like, oh my gosh, a triplet.
Okay, well, let's go through this one here. So this is rest.
Okay, here's a new one that we haven't seen before.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Rest. Jello. Rest.
The jello normally is you take a jello, which is 2 fingers on one hand, and then you take another jello, which is 2 fingers on your other hand, and you put them together to make jello.
Yep. Jello.
Jello. And it's 2 words, so it's 2 beats.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it works out like that.
Cool. Oh, okay. Here's something new.
Something new. Here we go. Jello, to rest. So instead of saying half note, we just say to.
And then inevitably the question is, how long is this note?
Yes.
Everyone's like, 2.
I go to this card.
Okay.
If you can't see it, if you're listening at home, it has 3 half notes on it. And then we'll say the card. 2. And I'll say, how many beats do you think one of those gets?
2.
And they'll say 2.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how old they are.
Yeah.
My 3-year-olds say 2.
Yeah. Well, I think also that's the thing is it's not meant to be only for a certain age group. It's just like literally when you're saying it, you're like, oh, that's 2 beats.
Yeah,
so.
it moves. And then if they're old enough to do it, which the 6th graders that you saw were, I'll say how many beats are on the card. And then they'll say 6.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So you can kind of make it more age appropriate depending on who you're teaching.
Yeah, and the speed at which I do the cards for 6th graders is very different than the speed at which I do cards.
Yeah, for like 3-year-olds.
3-year-olds. Obviously, it's very different. And then also the amount of cards is very different.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'll get through quite a few of the cards with the 6th graders.
Right.
But not so much with the littles. I'll get through like 5 or 6 cards at a time. All right. Let's try this one.
All right. Sounds good.
Rest. Pineapple.
I love pineapple.
I love pineapple too. and the instead of when it has 2 bars instead of 1, so the 16th note triplets instead of the 8th note triplets are called celery.
Oh, celery and pineapple. My favorite. And I think what's neat to see too on these triplets is the little 3 that's indicating that it is a triplet, because sometimes when I see it in the music and then the kids get confused, they're like, this finger number doesn't match with this triplet.
Oh,
and I'm like, that's not a finger number. That's actually a sign for triplet. So even from the very beginning, and you notice that none of these have like specific pitches associated. It's just so that you can identify the rhythm. So that way, when they see the 3 there and they see it later on, they're like, oh yeah, this is still part of pineapple or celery.
Yeah, there's no note heads except for when the note heads indicate value.
Yeah, great.
So like half notes and whole notes.
All right. Well, let's dive into this. Pineapple. Pineapple, 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 pineapple. So let's do this one. Let's try it.
Okay.
Jello, jello, rest, rest, pineapple. Nice.
Yeah.
So I think, again, finger symbols representing specific values or what kind of rest it is super helpful in remembering. So these are just a sampling of the Music Mind Games Blue Jello cards. They're so fun, and there's like a whole bunch of them. But let's keep going. All right, there was part 1 of Music Mind Games with Teacher Alex. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all for either me or Alex, I will leave some links in the show notes, and you can definitely contact one or the other of us and let us know, what did you think of this episode? Hopefully it gives you some curiosity on what Music Mind Games is all about. If you enjoy this podcast and this episode, I would love it if you give us a 5-star review. It really helps boost this podcast and help bring it to other music lovers such as yourself. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks again to Alex for coming on this podcast and starting to talk about Music Mind Games. Stay tuned next time for part 2 of Music Mind Games, where we explore some other things that are important to Music Mind Games and getting to know a little bit more about Alex themselves. And also, there's going to be an opportunity for you to go and learn Music Mind Games from Teacher Alex themselves. So stay tuned for part 2 and check out the show notes for any other information you might need. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, cello on.